Yeah, Justin and Hazel, they were out here for at least 10 hours yesterday, and they are back in earnest today. I'm going to give you a look at this morning. It was a very chaotic scene here last night, especially. A level 1 NYPD mobilization had to be called. There were multiple arrests, and now many of these protesters say they were injured as well.
What the hell is that? What the hell kind of mayor is that is hell-bent on locking up all the good citizens? Mr. Mayor, we're not going to sit down and take this. We are going to do everything we can to fight you on this.
New York Senator Steve Chan fired up and reacting to 7 protesters being hauled away in cuffs on Wednesday after protesting at a Sheepshead Bay construction site.
This guy is so hell-bent on destroying our neighborhood and shoving that homeless shelter in your backyards.
He's been advocating for voters opposed to a homeless shelter being built at 2134 Coyle Street, where multiple demonstrations have happened, with more possibly coming this weekend. Councilmember Susan Zhuang also posting her own video of large groups of Asian senior citizens at the protests. The issue, this was meant to be affordable housing. Instead, they say a homeless shelter is being built. Zhuang arrested last year for biting a police officer at a similar protest of a homeless shelter under construction in another part of her district. Those charges dropped this month. Now saying the Asian community is being coerced into silence and submission, but they will not be ignored on the issue. Fellow Councilmember Mercedes Narcisse also applying pressure with the Department of Buildings, demanding a full review be conducted of permits, saying the original plan approved by the local community board and city council was for mixed-use affordable housing, and demanding a written report that all demolition permits and safety plans fully comply with city code.
Now, the mayor's office responding that this was they notified the community a year and a half ago of this mixed use going in here, but then they do concede that the owner of the building changed the plans on this. The question is, can the owner of the building change the plans and turn it into a homeless shelter, or is this truly the mayor's office trying to push through a homeless shelter? These protesters vow that they're going to stay out here and continue to apply pressure. We're live in Sheepshead Bay. I'm Kristen Holpix, 11 News. Back to you, Justin and Hazel. They definitely are, Craig and Vanessa. These protests extending for more than 10 hours yesterday, erupting into a very chaotic scene that included arrests. All of this coming from the fact that these neighbors say when this new building was originally sold to them, when they were told about it, that this was meant to be affordable housing. And instead, they said they got a bait and switch, and that there's a homeless shelter now going in their midst. And they say that they are vehemently opposed to this.
What the hell is that? What the hell kind of mayor is that is hell-bent on locking up all the good citizens? Mr. Mayor, we're not going to sit down and take this. We are going to do everything we can to fight you on this.
New York Senator Steve Chan fired up and reacting to 7 protesters being hauled away in cuffs on Wednesday after protesting at a Sheepshead Bay construction site.
This guy is so hell-bent on destroying our neighborhood and shoving that homeless shelter in your backyards.
He's been advocating for voters opposed to a homeless shelter being built at 2134 Coyle Street, where multiple demonstrations have happened, with more possibly coming this weekend. Councilmember Susan Zhuang also posting her own video of large groups of Asian senior citizens at the protests. The issue, this was meant to be affordable housing. Instead, they say a homeless shelter is being built. Zhuang arrested last year for biting a police officer at a similar protest of a homeless shelter under construction in another part of her district. Those charges dropped this month. Now saying the Asian community is being coerced into silence and submission, but they will not be ignored on the issue. Fellow Councilmember Mercedes Narcisse also applying pressure with the Department of Buildings, demanding a full review be conducted of permits, saying the original plan approved by the local community board and city council was for mixed-use affordable housing, and demanding a written report that all demolition permits and safety plans fully comply with city code.
So this is meant to be, at this point, a homeless shelter for 169 families, including with some school-aged children. The mayor's office responding to all of this, saying that, yes, they do concede that the owner of the building altered the plans for this site. The fight here continues. Protesters already starting to come in this morning in the early morning hours. We're live in Sheepshead Bay. I'm Kirsten Cole, Pix 11 News. Back to you, Vanessa and Craig.
There's an escalation early this morning in an ongoing fight against a homeless shelter in Brooklyn.
As we have been reporting, protesters have been trying to block construction at the Coyle Street site for nearly 7 weeks now. Hannah Klieger explains why everyone is keeping their eyes on an upcoming court date.
Video from early Wednesday morning shows one man on the floor as others argue with police. From another angle, protesters push back against officers trying to clear them from blocking the shelter site. NYPD confirms several people were arrested.
They broke everything down and they pretty much removed the members to where the residents still across the street.
Earlier this month, a judge ruled that opponents cannot block access to the property as nonprofit developer West Hab begins construction on a 169-bed homeless shelter for families with children.
We asked them to build a homeless shelter somewhere else.
Protesters are calling this plan a bait and switch because this site was previously approved for a 5-story building, which included affordable housing back in 2021. That plan fell through, which is when West Hab stepped in with its shelter project.
They feel it's unsafe, so that's why they want to protect the community.
West Hab's CEO says they had nothing to do with the original proposal, saying in part, "We've been clear about our plans from the onset of our involvement, and we followed all protocols."
We thought that no, it could not happen because we just finished debating a YOLA process for affordable housing.
Neighbors have filed an injunction to try to pause construction. They're due back in court on May 7th. That's also when they plan to protest outside the courthouse and by City Hall. The city says this district does not have any long-term shelters. A statement from the Department of Homeless Services reads in part, "We need every community to do its part to support our neighbors in need."
What about Park Avenue in Manhattan? When you start setting the example in Manhattan, then maybe we can convince these people they need to do their fair share.
The developer says the shelter is expected to open in about 2 years. In Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, Hannah Klieger, CBS News, New York.
Now to a developing story in Brooklyn, an escalation in an ongoing fight against a homeless shelter in Sheepshead Bay. We first reported on this issue in March, but nearly 7 weeks later, protesters continue to try to block the construction. Hannah Klieger brings us the updates from Coyle Street.
Neighbors say the reason they're so upset is because this site was approved for a 5-story development that included affordable housing back in 2021. That plan fell through, though, and that's when developers stepped in with a new plan to build a shelter. The shelter would be for 169 homeless families with children operated by a nonprofit called West Hab. Residents are saying this was not what they had agreed on. They've been protesting out here for nearly 7 weeks. Some people even stayed overnight in a makeshift encampment to prevent the start of construction. This morning, police began breaking up that encampment and letting a couple of the trucks onto the site. The city says this would be this district's first long-term shelter. West Hab, the shelter developer, says the organization had nothing to do with the original plan and insists it followed all protocols to get this project approved. But protesters say they plan to remain here until that plan is stopped.
We've had residents taking 24-hour, shift vigil protests to just stand, their ground against having the homeless shelter in the community. We support having affordable housing because that was the initial agreement.
Homeowners who live on the other side of this site are also engaged in an active legal dispute with the developer who's trying to enforce a contract they signed to let construction workers onto their property. But homeowners are also filing an injunction to stop construction. Their next court date is May 7th. In Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, Hannah Klieger, CBS News, New York.
Now in Sheepshead Bay, the crowd is growing outside a planned homeless shelter where police clashed with protesters last night. News 12's Edric Robinson is there now. Edric, what is it looking like right now?
Yeah, Nadia, the energy here has been picking up. Right now, we're on Avenue U and Coyle Street, and behind me, you can see protesters here, some sitting in seats here. They're positioning themselves on this corner. Some telling me they plan to block contractors that will be coming in here to do work for the city. Some of them holding these signs that say no homeless shelter, and they're banging on those signs as a show of defiance. Officers are also standing by here. Now, one protester telling me that this isn't just about what's going on here. They say it's about protecting their kids and the future of their neighborhood. Now check out this video from the scene last night. It shows someone being arrested right here on the sidewalk. Other videos we've seen since we've been here, we saw people throwing objects towards police as things definitely got more tense. The NYPD tells us 7 people were taken into custody. 2 of them arrested, including 1 person charged with assault. The other 5 were given summonses. Demonstrators, they're claiming they were promised affordable housing on this lot, not a shelter for families. Take a listen.
We just want to keep our community safe and keep our kids safe. We want to just have a safe environment for every people to live.
And the mayor's office saying that the plans for this shelter had been announced for over a year, and they plan to help about 170 families with children in need. Now, coming up in this broadcast, we're going to speak to more of these demonstrators, some of them who say they've been holding the line here for a month. Nadia? And Nadia, as you can hear, things are definitely building back up out here. We're on Coyle Street, directly in front of the site here. We estimate that there's about 30 people out here that have joined the line here protesting, many holding signs that say no homeless shelter. They're banging on the backs of them. One of them telling me earlier, this isn't just about this lot across the street. It's about protecting their kids and their community. Now take a look at this video shared with us by someone earlier as we arrived here at the scene. We can see here someone in the crowd here being arrested by police. That was last night. We've seen other videos which showed people in the crowd throwing things towards officers as tensions escalate. The NYPD telling us that 7 people were taken into custody, 2 arrested, including 1 accused of assault. 5 others were issued summonses. The protesters say they claim that this community was promised affordable housing here and not a shelter for families. Now, the mayor's office saying that the plans for this shelter had been announced over a year. It's going to be the first of its kind, a transitional home in this district for about 170 families with children. Now, coming up in this broadcast, I'm going to speak to some of these protesters who've been holding the line here. Nadia?
To that breaking news out of Sheepshead Bay. You're watching News 12 Brooklyn. I'm Christy Reeder. Right now, a huge police presence in Sheepshead Bay as protesters continue to rally against a homeless shelter being built on Coyle Street there. News 12's Morgan Scott is on the scene where at least 2 people have been arrested at this point. So, Morgan, what are you seeing out there right now?
Yeah, Christy, so far we've seen at least 2 senior citizens be arrested and placed in the back of a police van just a few moments after officers warned on a megaphone that protesters would be charged with disorderly conduct. And in the time that we've been here, those protesters have gradually been pushed closer to the sidewalk as police continue to move those barricades. Now, affordable housing units instead of a homeless shelter is what they're fighting for. After all, that's what they were originally told would be coming here to 2134 Coyle Street. Protesters tell us they've been here every day for the past 2 months on this issue, but it was not until today when contractors for the homeless shelter showed up that police also came with them.
The contractors were saying that they received permission from the city council member and the mayor to come in to do this. So what I wanted to do is to see the permits, what kind of work they're coming to do. That's what the residents are outraged about, because we were informed that this was going to be an affordable housing and not a shelter.
Now, at this point, it seems like protesters have no plans of leaving the area soon, and we can hear a Guardian Angel leader, Curtis Siwa, on the microphone, and he's also just agreeing with them that they need to continue to fight for this homeless shelter to go away from their community. Earlier, even the council member Mercedes was here trying to tell these protesters they need to be patient with the process, but it doesn't seem like they're trying to hear any of that. In Sheepshead Bay, Morgan Scott, News 12 Brooklyn.